You've never heard this thank you before, I don't think. Not properly. I was elected on September 11, 2001, in the Democratic primary, the day of the attacks on New York and also Washington and Western Pennsylvania. And they delayed my swearing in down in Washington because we had anthrax in all the buildings. And at that time, there were a lot of threats to our postal facilities. As a matter of fact, down at the Brentwood facility down near Washington, D.C., we had 2 postal workers who actually were killed because of anthrax inhalation. But I remember that time distinctly. Both my sister Karen had young children at the time, my sister Linda as well, my brother-in-law, all working at the Postal Service. And the big issue there was, it was a crisis. It was a crisis for the leadership of the Postal Service, and you got a great leader in Fred Rolando, I'll tell you that. One of the best. But we never found out who it was, but people were mailing anthrax in envelopes and packages around the country. And so there was a real crisis here, because at that time, in the days and weeks after 9/11, we were concerned in this country, the president was concerned, Congress was concerned that if the mail wasn't delivered, we would have a collapse of our economic system. This was after September 11th. So the postal workers, the mail handlers, the National Association of Letter Carriers, you had a crisis on your hands. And I know it because it was my family. And my sisters were worrying about going into the Postal Service, going into their jobs, and maybe tracking anthrax on their clothes coming back home with their kids and their families. So the challenge to all of our postal workers and our unions was, do we go into work where we know it might be dangerous, or do we stay out? And that's a tough question for labor leaders, because you're there for the safety of your workers, of your members. But on behalf of this country, all of you continue to report to work and do your jobs. In the face of that danger, and for your courage in showing up to work and doing your job and protecting this country, I want to say, on behalf of the federal government, I want to say thank you. Thank you for all your hard work. So we got a challenge down in Washington, D.C. We have a serious challenge with what the Republicans are trying to do to dismantle the Postal Service. Before the Republicans took over, I was actually the chairman of the Postal Committee. It's the Committee on the United States Postal Service, Washington, D.C., and the Census. But what has happened recently is really an attempt to privatize, really, the Postal Service in a very real way. And while we were fighting to stop them from going to 5-day, and we continue to fight, we asked for a couple of studies to look at what would happen if we went to 5-day. Would it save the Postal Service money? We spent a lot of money on 2 studies that were largely inconclusive, and that's because of the following reasons. If you didn't deliver the mail on Saturday, it would be devastating to a lot of small businesses all around this country, because we all operate now on a 6-day system. Nobody works 5 days anymore. Every business in America is working 6 days, if not 7 days. So in a fragile economy right now, we have to deliver the mail 6 days a week to get this recovery going. There's an interesting thing happening, too, because I listen to the UPS folks down in Washington and the FedEx workers down in Washington. They do not want you to stop delivering 6 days a week, just so you know. Because what they do in a lot of cases is they bring their mail to the United States Postal Service. That's a pretty good gig for them. And they know you're going to deliver it on time, and they know you're going to do your job right at the lowest cost. So, but what will happen is, if we make a terrible decision and end 6-day delivery, what will happen is that those companies will now start to cherry pick on the routes around the country that make money. So we will end universal service in this country. And it'll be bad for major cities like Boston. It'll be terrible, but it'll be devastating for suburbs and rural areas where those companies and those homes rely on that 6-day schedule of delivery. So in the best interest of the United States of America, the best interest of our families, the best interest of the business community in America, we have to preserve 6-day delivery in the United States. I had the great honor of being the lead sponsor. I drafted a bill called H.R. 1351, which is the postal reform legislation. And because last session ended and this new session, it now has a new number, 961. It's basically the same bill with a few improvements. But the important thing that you have to know, my bill would preserve the current situation with the United States Postal Service. I also have amendments that I filed directly to preserve 6-day delivery in the United States. But looking at the United States Postal Service as a whole, this bill, 1351, which is now 961, not to confuse you, it stops right now, as Fred has talked about and John as well. They talked about this it's a $5 billion annual payment that you have to make to provide for the health care of postal workers who haven't been born yet. There's no, figure that out. There's no other company, there's no other agency, no other department in the U.S. government that has to do that. That's right, it was a Republican idea. I serve on the joint House and Senate Postal Reform Subcommittee as well. If we can get rid of that onerous payment, and all we're going to ask, instead of funding things 75 years in advance or 92 years in advance, we're going to ask the Postal Service to fund your pension obligation and your health care obligations as they come due, like every other business in America. So there is education that we need to do here. There is. But, the funny thing is this. Every year the Pew Poll Institute, they do a study. They ask America, they say, how do you rate all these different departments in the United States? How do you rate your government? Every year for the past 17 years, when Americans, when they poll the efficiency and the degree to which they appreciate their government, they always put the United States Postal Service, the letter carriers, the mail handlers, the clerks, at the very top of the list. You top out everyone. Every single year, America loves its mail handlers, its letter carriers, its postal workers. Every single year. They also measure Congress. And right now, I got to be honest with you, we're not doing so good. You can see why. Now, this year, Congress is at 6% popularity. We're right between the Taliban and the swine flu. And Congress is afraid they're at 6% popularity, and they're afraid to pass my reform bill because they think it might be unpopular with some of the Republican, members. I said, we're at 6% now. What are you worried about, going to 4%? So, look, the bottom line is this. It's not popular in America today to be a union member. I'm a union member. I'm a former president for the Ironworkers Union. I have a union card in my pocket, and I'm 3 months ahead on my dues. That's just because I'm afraid I'll forget. They'll throw me out. But look, competition used to be, more efficient equipment, and I know that a lot of you understand that, newer technology. But now what competition has begun to be in America is cut the wages, cut the benefits of the people who are doing the work in this country. And that's a bad place to be. That's a race to the bottom. We just got to stay together. We got to stay together. We got to stick together. We got to fight together. We can win this fight. I just want to say, I would love to go to the United States Senate and be your champion. I need your help. I need your help. Look, as I look around this common, I have to say that there's no one in the United States Senate like you or me. And I want to change that. There's no one out there that, for myself, I strapped on a pair of work boots for 18 years. I know what it's like to stand in an unemployment line. I know what it's like to worry about your family when you're out of work and the bills are piling up. There's nobody like that in the United States Senate. We had a chance to change that. So while Michigan is putting in right to work to hurt unions, when Wisconsin's taking away the collective bargaining rights of workers, when Indiana's going right to work so that people can't join the warrant, what's the message that Massachusetts is going to send? That's right. I think the message that we send to Washington and the United States Senate is, here's how we feel about working families. We're going to send the only card-carrying former union president in the United States history to the United States Senate. God bless you all for coming out today and for sticking together. You can win this fight as long as you stick together. God bless the American labor movement. God bless the letter carriers. God bless America. Thank you.